you running for in Eugene?
I'm running for the Ward 1 City Council seat in Eugene.
Great. Why did you choose to run?
I've been in Eugene not quite a decade, and in the time I've been here, our challenges haven't really changed. We've been short on housing. We've struggled with folks who are without a house completely, and folks don't feel like our parks and downtown are spaces that they can utilize safely with their families. So I'm really excited to join City Council and specifically bring a decisive and proactive voice to City Council, a focused effort on those challenges to start moving the needle in a way that people notice.
Great. What do you feel like city leadership is kind of missing the mark on, and what do you think that you could implement or encourage to sort of rectify that?
I think when you talk to folks across different constituencies in Eugene, a really common thread is people feel like they're not heard. They don't feel like they've been engaged with authentically on issues. I think that's a major shortcoming, and I think if we're doing that work properly, we obviously can't please anyone, but we can develop solutions that have really broad community support, and we can move those solutions forward decisively, and not get distracted when a few loud people show up at a city council meeting to try and derail movement on our challenges.
Awesome. I'm sure. Actually, I'll just ask you, what do you feel is is the sort of number one issue when it comes to Eugene's public safety and accessibility?
Yeah, it all really does come back to housing. If you want to whittle it down to one issue, when folks aren't housed, then they are sleeping in your parks. They don't have support to overcome instability that allows them to deal with potential mental health issues, with any drug addiction problems they may have. And those folks, whether or not they actually present a danger to you, they present as unpredictable when you're sharing a park space with them. And that's fine if you're me and you're 6 foot and a young white guy. But for people with small children and families, that makes parks feel really inaccessible. That makes downtown feel really inaccessible. It's not what folks are signing up for when they come to use our public spaces. So housing is the first thing we can do to introduce some stability into those folks' lives and allow them to work on the challenges that they individually face.
Do you have any specific ideas to encourage more housing development in Eugene?
Yeah, we've done a lot of work in kind of opening the door for private developers to put up a new variety of housing. We've done a lot of work around infill with the city's implementation of State Bill 2001. And that's great that we've opened those doors, but there's more work to do. In that space specifically, I've heard people mention we need to look at our systems development charges to make sure that those are equitable for folks who are putting up, say, an ADU, and they're not paying perhaps a disproportionate system development charge to get that kind of property up on their property, that kind of structure up on their property. So there's still work to do around infill. And then I want to make sure we're also looking at our downtown, which is a space that kind of, we all agree already is a place for dense residential and dense commercial activity, and we're not utilizing it as such. So I want to make sure we're being proactive about getting dense, high-rise housing built downtown. Mixed-use stuff with commercial space on the bottom so that our streets are activated, and a place for people to live. When people look at Eugene as a place to build a life and build a career, they're looking for a variety of housing options, and that's one piece of the puzzle that right now I don't think we're putting up. We've put in programs like MUPTI and SDC waivers, construction excise taxes to try and spur some of that development, but I think there's work to be done as city councilors to go out and meet with folks who have perhaps blighted lots or lots that are extremely underutilized in those areas and figure out what are your blockers. We've put these programs in place and you've elected not to use them. You're not taking advantage of it right now. You're just sitting on this completely inactivated building. This isn't working for our city. How can we, what are your needs? How can we help you move forward on this?
And then some of the other pressing issues are, access to healthcare in Eugene, and the many changes that we've been going through as a city.
Yep.
Do you have any ideas of how to address people's concerns when it comes to access to emergency care or just healthcare providers sort of being pushed out?
Yeah. So props to Nancy Nathanson, who's done some work in the last legislative session to get some money coming into our community to work on what I'll kind of call small box healthcare. So more like an urgent care or a single kind of family practice or different kind of specialties within within the medical care field. That doesn't replace a hospital, and that doesn't replace an emergency room. So we still have work to do. We're going to have to figure out our budget problem if we're going to invest in that problem, invest in solving that problem. Because, up until now, we're very much been reliant on entities like Peace Health and our other kind of care providers, who are also our insurance providers, who also employ, like family practice folks. And so I think we're going to have to look at ways that we can diversify who's responsible for providing medical care in our community. Some folks think like a publicly funded hospital is the way to go. Maybe that is, but that's a conversation that we'll have to have with the county as well. At the city level, I think we can also make sure that this is a viable place to live if you choose to be a medical care provider. Obviously, physicians get paid fairly well, and they're able to pay down the copious amounts of debt that they accrue, but that's not true for every position in the medical field. So you have folks who are maybe considering coming to Eugene to work in those positions, and they're like, well, I can't afford a house here. I can't afford to raise a family here. I can't go to Eugene, Oregon for a job in my field. We have to make sure that that's not the reality. We have to make sure that folks are able to earn a good wage here in Eugene. We have to make sure that housing's affordable. We have to make sure that people can build a life here in a way that's viable for their economic situation.
What's an issue that you feel might not be getting enough attention that you would kind of put your efforts towards?
Yeah, I think if looking at my campaign and kind of differentiating myself from the other folks running for Ward 1, an issue that comes up is economic development. As a city, we don't have a codified economic development plan, which is pretty unusual for a city our size. We're going on 190,000 people. And so we have no document to lean on when we go out to recruit businesses to come to our area and pay a good wage and offer good benefits and employ people and put them in a position where they can afford to buy the kind of house they want to buy, to buy the kind of groceries they want to buy, right? So that economic mobility is really tough for Eugene right now. The county is in fact becoming poorer compared to the state and federal levels. Our wages are falling behind, the gap is growing. So I think Eugene is a big part of Lane County. We're obviously not the whole county, but people feel that pinch here. And so we really need to work on making sure that we have strong employers in the area and create economic mobility for folks here in Eugene, rather than prop up, say, economic disparity.
I mean, what else do you feel like kind of differentiates you from other candidates that maybe have a little more experience in nonprofit work or governmental work or neighborhood leadership that would convince a voter to vote for you?
Sure. So I will say that I have some experience in those spaces. I was part of the group that reactivated the Bethel Neighborhood Association back in 2018, and I co-chaired that for a time. I'm currently the president of Downtown Eugene Merchants, so that is also, obviously a business bent, but that is an organization of collective of folks who have different views on things that we have to kind of that we have to reckon with, right? Beyond that, what I really see as a differentiating factor for me is bringing that decisiveness, that focus. I spend my everyday knowing that within the business that I run, that nothing moves forward if I'm not able to make a decision and move it forward. Things will not just kind of happen without me. And I think that it's time the city council is a bit more proactive on efforts here in the city and really like pushing to see things done rather than waiting for things to kind of happen, rather than setting up programs and hope developers take advantage to build housing. We have to be proactive, we have to be decisive, and we have to be focused.
And then I think you mentioned sort of people not feeling like they've been heard or listened to when it comes to the decision-making process.
Yeah.
What would your approach be to ensuring that a lot of different segments of the population, homeless people, homelessness advocates, people that are concerned about public health access, the Chamber of Commerce, for an example, and the business leaders in the community, how would you ensure that the city council is sort of considering all of those perspectives when you make your decision on what to vote on?
Right. So people will often point as a city council meeting in the public comment section of the city council meeting as like, well, there's your opportunity to tell people what you think. But that's not really accessible to everyone in our community. And I think that's what people are talking about when they say they don't feel heard. There are folks who don't feel comfortable going in that room and speaking in front of people. On the other side, you have organizations like the Chamber who are really efficient at lining up folks to come and all talk at City Council at the same time to address an issue and make sure their voice is heard, right? And we have to make sure that that is power that a lot of different constituencies in our community feel like they have. Door knocking has been one of my favorite parts of this campaign, and the folks in Ward 1 are very friendly. They're more than willing to invite you to hang out on their deck and chat for a while. And I'm sure my campaign managers would tell me I spend way too much time at any given house and that I need to get a move on. But, you know, that's the kind of work we can do to reach that's some of the work we can do to reach folks. Now, I think there's also some more intentional work to be done in reaching out to specific constituencies like you were getting at. It was great to be introduced to the Black Cultural Initiative and be able to engage with them and figure out what some of their priorities are. I'm looking forward to talking with folks over at Fuerza de la Familia about what their priorities are, folks within the LGBTQ community. There are leaders in those communities that we can build relationships with who will introduce you to the people, kind of boots on the ground, everyday people who belong to those communities. And that way, we're not kind of picking out individuals to be sort of token representatives of those communities either. It's important to meet with the everyday folks within those different constituencies.
Great. Anything else you want to add?
The primary is May 21st. I hope people come out and vote. You don't have to come out and vote. Sorry, that's my Midwest speaking. No, so be sure to return your ballot by May 21st. We're very fortunate that voting is so accessible in Oregon, and it's really great. Take advantage of it.